I am back with another reaction video. This from the latest episode of the Joe Rogan Experience on Spotify only. Him and Brendan Schaub are going to discuss Carlos Mencia, his latest appearance on Bobby Lee's podcast. So I'm going to go ahead and play this, react to it, give you my thoughts about it. But let's see how this goes down. I found this on the Fighter and the Kids subreddit, so let's check it out.
He's a great guy. He would never do something like that on purpose.
Agree.
Somebody probably came
His
up
team
with
did.
it. That's a problem. It's a problem. You know, I remember when there was a real issue at the Comedy Store because late night talk show writers would come in and they would watch people do stand-up and then steal their jokes.
Take their ideas.
Then guys would wind up doing those bits in their sets. And I know that that's happened to... There's more than one. I don't want to even name any names of hosts, but more than one host, whether they knew it or not, was doing stolen material.
They probably didn't know.
They might have known. They might not have known. I don't know. I don't think
know
they
them,
knew.
yeah.
But
I'd assume a team, though.
it was a giant issue. There was
sure,
a giant
dude.
issue with certain sketch shows that they were stealing people's acts and then making sketches out of those shows.
Speaking of stealing, did you
Amy Schumer.
see Carlos Mencia on Bobby Lee's show?
I did not.
It is riveting. I called Bobby when I got done with it. Because, you know, I wasn't around the Comedy Store in comedy when that was going down when you guys had this.
I saw that he was on it, and I watched like a few seconds of it, but I was like, oof.
It's
You watched the entire thing, Joe. Let's keep it real.
pretty fucking entertaining. And Bobby, you know, he goes at him, man. He's like, you definitely stole some stuff, man, and like you need to apologize for it. And he's like, well, I don't know if I did. He's like, no, you definitely stole some stuff, dude.
Yeah.
And you just see Carlos' side from it. Again, I only know one perspective, right? And just hearing Carlos' side, again, I wasn't there. I have no fucking clue what happened. I believe you. You know, Carlos is like, the problem is like, I'm not on the internet. I'm not on social media really.
Of course he is.
Well, he's saying like he doesn't really have a voice on there.
So
So
an Instagram page.
yeah, but not, you know, he's not doing it. You know, he's
It's
older.
on it all the time.
Is he?
Yeah, it's not true.
Well,
How would you know unless you follow it, Joe?
he's saying from like this again. Yeah, you're probably right.
Well, he's just not popular.
Yeah, he just hasn't
been
adapted with the
stuck
times.
at like a certain number of Instagram followers for years.
I don't even know how many followers he has, but he's saying he wasn't able to get his narrative out and apologize to the people.
That's not true. No, I mean, he's come up with a bunch of different versions of why he is not at fault.
And Joe, I'm not
Yeah.
I'm not
No, I
defending
know
that
you're
at all.
not.
I'm just
I know
saying
you're
it was super interesting because I only know, you know, your version, Ari's version. Bobby Lee tells me
Yeah.
about all these stories. I've heard all these stories. I've never had any interaction
He's
with
got
him.
a few different versions. One of
Yeah.
his versions is I've recorded all my shows since 1993, and if I ever stole a joke, I would go back and say, listen, I could show you that I did it before you, or if I did, I'm sorry. Like, it's an
How does Joe know this since he didn't see him on Bobby Lee's podcast?
he's trying to find a way to excuse what everybody
behavior.
knows he did. What he was doing was copying other people's material, copying premises, and he was doing it openly. It was, I mean, there's a video from a show. There was like this documentary they did where he admitted it. He actually said, "Yeah, I copy it." It's like what a rapper remixes it. He
Yeah, I
goes,
think
"Is it
Patrice
stealing?"
O'Neill posted that when
Yeah.
he was alive, did a talk show and was like, he admits it here.
That talk show was called the Opie and Anthony Show.
He goes, yeah, I stole those jokes.
Yeah.
I've seen that.
Now he says that, you know, now he says he didn't. Now he says, you know, he comes up with a difference. Look, the guy has been tortured. You know, that's the sad thing. It's like, how much does the man deserve? How much punishment does he deserve for what he did? You know,
He's probably still not stealing.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know what he's doing.
I know he does like 2.5 hours on stage.
But here's the thing that does happen to comics, and this is where it's really weird. Comics that steal, they have a really good beginning of their career, and then they get called out for stealing, and then they try to not steal. And the contrast between their early material when they were stealing and the new material when they're not stealing is
Clear as
fucking
day. Yeah.
stark.
Yep.
It's staggering. And there's many. We can name them right
Sure.
now if we wanted to be mean.
Yep.
And some of them have done specials recently.
Do you want me to do it?
You don't have to.
Okay.
But it's brutal. The difference is fucking brutal. And that difference is because they were plagiarizing. They were taking other people's premises. They were doing it on purpose. And some of them, they've been real calculated about it, like threatening the comedians they stole from, sending DMs to them. Or text messages, making them real uncomfortable,
Put pressure on them.
Putting themselves in these protected categories, or saying they're part of certain movements that, like I've not known for you to be helping this movement. Like, you're talking about this movement on stage.
Who are they talking about? Amy Schumer, Dane Cook?
And then stealing their premises and stealing their bits. Like, there's some dark shit that goes on.
And it catches up with them. To your point, like, their specials are dog shit.
Specials are dog shit. And that's where you know. Like, there's a thing with comedy that happen. There's a bunch of things that can happen once you become successful, and then you continue to make specials. One of them is you kind of run out of stuff to talk about. Or you spend 10 years developing your first set, and then you have to do another set afterwards. It's just not as good.
Or you can't relate to the people. You're so famous that your material's not relatable.
Those are both
Kevin Hart's pretty good at that.
Well, he's smart. He's also very ambitious, and he hires a lot of writers, and he's also he's a very honest person.
You're good at it too?
Yeah, I work hard. I work hard.
Yeah,
I work hard. I work hard. And I'm fucking ruthless on myself. I'm a very self-critical person.
I think a lot of those people that we won't mention, a lot of them,
they're really actors. They're acting like comics.
There you go.
What they really are is they're attention whores. They really want attention in any way they can get it, and they've chosen stand-up for their vehicle or their venue.
And they made it in other avenues, and they come back to comedy.
Yes. Yeah. But the difference is so obvious, and that's one of the if you know, like, people. It's hard for bands to maintain top performance. Like, a lot of bands, they start out and they have a bunch of good albums, and their albums start to suck. It happens with comedians. They get real famous, they get soft, and then the other problem is their audience loves them, so they can kind of do anything, and they go out there and the audience loves them, and then the material suffers.
That's why Steve Martin quit. Have you ever read that book, Born Standing Up?
Yeah.
He said he went out there and he had this like ukulele thing, and it would come down, and one night it came down, but it fucked up, and so there's no bit. He had to have it, but the audience was laughing right away, and he's like, oh fuck, I'm done. He's like, it's not even the material anymore. They're laughing at whatever the fuck I do now.
Yeah. It's
so he stopped doing it.
Stand-up comedy in some ways is in some ways, there's a parallel that you can make to martial arts.
How so?
Oh, with the martial arts comparison.
In that, if you don't put the real work in, when the time comes to perform, it shows.
There's a ceiling.
Yeah.
Again, there's a ceiling.
Yeah.
Because to your point, if you don't put the work in, you're going to get to a certain level, right, where you're playing to your crowd. You're playing to your crowd, and they think everything's funny. You're like, man, I'm fucking killing it.
Right.
And then you're going to go to the Comedy Store where it's not your crowd or something.
Yeah.
And you got to do real jokes, not references of your famous buddies or to this where people don't know you. You got to do real jokes.
Right.
And you fucked, man.
You got to do jokes for people that aren't your fans.
Correct.
And that's the difference between maybe sparring with people that are in your camp that maybe know how good you are to fighting someone who doesn't give a fuck and they're trying to kill you.
Yep.
And then you see how much work you've really put in. It might not be the best comparison in the world.
It's a pretty good comparison, though.
It was a terrible comparison.
Especially from the world we come from.
Yeah. The comparisons are all like, you can't not work. You have to put in the work, and the work is uncomfortable.
Well, here I don't mean to interrupt you.
No, that's right.
But to your point, though, it's like if you're a wrestler and you got to a certain point where the takedown's working every time, every single time, and then you get to a guy where that takedown's not going to work, and if you didn't work on those skills, where if the wrestling doesn't work, where you got to find other ways to beat them, you're not going to have a career, man. You lose 3 and you're out of the fucking UFC working at Starbucks.
Yeah.
So you got to put in the time for that other stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good analogy, and I bet that exists in almost every endeavor.
Correct.
That there's certain things you don't like to do. They're uncomfortable. Like how many guys do we know that are like really good strikers? They don't want to go to the ground because they don't want to get tapped, so they don't train on their ground game, and then they wind up getting in a situation where they're on the ground, and they get tapped. Didn't you tell me that Justin Gaethje never trains jiu-jitsu?
Okay, so that was them discussing the latest appearance of Carlos Mencia on Bobby Lee's podcast. In my opinion, Carlos Mencia is a joke thief, obviously. He got called out. I'm still waiting, though, for the Holy Grail podcast when Joe Rogan has Carlos Mencia as a guest. Because he was sort of explaining right there, and Brendan Schaub, of course, cut him off, that how much does someone have to be punished for doing something? I don't know, but I found that clip to be interesting. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. And check out Joe Rogan's podcast on Spotify. If you use Spotify, I doubt it, but maybe they'll throw a clip on YouTube. I don't know. Let me know your thoughts in the comments now.